Welcome to Gretsch Generations. Snazzy theme song. Let's go there for a minute. Pretty good, you know. It's a lot of cheese in this business. Gretsch has done a good job right there. So I'm Zach Danziger, as you can see. Those are the two bands I've played with in my entire career, nothing else, but that's good. I like it. I am I guess, the tattered, weathered Gretsch artist that is going to introduce the fresh, you know, the neophyte of the Gretsch world. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but he happens to also be a good friend of mine. So maybe, you know, there'll be some drum talk. There could be some other talk. He's a loose cannon at times, and that's one of the things I love about him. So to use the biggest cliche in the book, without further ado, Mr. Dan Weiss. Dan.
Catskills. There was some Catskills right there, right, Zach? Some Catskills.
My dad was big on that circuit, you know, rubs off.
I know. Hey.
Here we are. Here we are.
Happy to be here.
2 books in the background.
Couple books, yeah.
Always studying.
Yeah, you know.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're on our own here. What, you know, this is scary. I mean, we have phone calls. Is there anything that we have not discussed 1,000 times that is going to be fresh material for this audience? I'm assuming probably.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure we'll get to some stuff that maybe we haven't talked about. Probably, maybe we've talked a lot though.
There's a lot of talk, and we can regurgitate, you know, because we're like that. There's amnesia setting in as we get older. I've got my version of a David Letterman sort of, you know, glass of water, a giant glass of water, literally. And
that's huge. Is that Andre the Giant?
It's Andre the Giant. Okay. It's a giant glass, yeah. And I'm going to basically hope to finish that. That'll be my 8 glasses of water a day. I'll consume that within an hour.
Okay.
And that'll be indisposed for another 2 hours. But
I used to drink a gallon a day.
They say that. They say
it was too much. It was too much.
Well, if you do it too quickly, you're in trouble. But basically, getting some fun commentary. Let's start with the first impressions. Do you want to start first, or do you want me to start? Because maybe you would have caught me.
I caught you earlier than you caught me.
Yeah, I'm a little older than you. I don't look it, of course, but yeah.
I first heard you on Wayne Krantz' 2 Drink Minimum.
Oh, on a record. Okay, I thought
on a record. That was the first time I heard you. When did that record come out? 95?
Good memory. I think 95, 96, yeah.
So I heard that when I was in college at Manhattan School of Music, and I flipped out when I first heard that record. Completely flipped out. And
since then, but I appreciate it. I've already learned something about Dan. Didn't know he went Manhattan School of Music. I thought you were a William Patterson guy.
No, well, I'm a Jersey guy, but that's where I went to school, Manhattan School of Music, 95 to 99.
See, already. I don't even know the co-host here. Hold on. Did you study with Justin the Ch-Ch-O?
I studied with Riley. I took some lessons with the Ch-Ch-O, but I studied with John. From 95 to 99.
Was the Ch-Ch-O lurking?
He was there. Yeah. I took a few lessons with Justin.
Wow, I didn't know you went. All right, boy. All right, there's a lot to learn clearly today.
Yeah, Floridita, Chicken Special.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a very influential recording on me. The 2 Drink Minimum. And I was like, wow, just because of the time, the way you were playing with time, the elasticity, and just, I really had to keep my spot because you were doing stuff that was very advanced and very cutting edge for the day. So I really liked that. And I played that for a lot of friends, you know, but a lot of them already knew you. So. But I didn't know. I think I might have maybe known about you from Michel Camillo, just because I remember getting some records from him, and some from him. I probably maybe heard you before that, but that was the first time I was, you know, very.
Now my memory of catching you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was playing with Dave Binney on and off some like spot gigs at the 55 Bar. Circa 2004, maybe, I want to say. Does that sound about right? 2003, 2005?
Maybe earlier, yeah. Earlier, I think. 2002.
Yeah, and what happened was he had some gigs, and I always loved playing with him, and would literally do these gigs. I mean, he can hold me to this. I do these gigs for, you know, $50 a gig. You want to take me to Europe? I'll do. I enjoy playing with him. So anyway, I'm pricing myself out right here, but it's just so happened I got called to do a movie soundtrack, and I remember this very well. Dave sort of argues about this story. I don't know if you know this story, Dan, but I got called to do.
I know the story.
You know the story.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it was a movie called Analyze That with De Niro and Billy Crystal. I was going to be on as the drummer and coordinating the musicians, and there was a lot of money to be made in the tracking and residuals for that sort of thing. And I ran those numbers by Dave, and with all due respect, his gig was paying, you know, a somewhat standard weekly salary for about 10 days. Mm-hmm. And I had to sort of beg him to say, listen, you know, I'd be turning down tens of thousands of dollars and residuals to do your tour that would yield me maybe $1,700. I think I need to do this movie thing. I took a little bit of heat from him for a while on that one. You know, he's still, you know, now he says, no, I told you to take it. I was like, nah, you gave me a little heat.
That's the tour. That's the tour I filled in for you. I filled in for you on that tour.
It, and hey, lo and behold, I've never worked a day with him since. You know, you miss those moments, and Dan Weiss has come along, and it's curtains. But
so Analyze That was a sequel, correct?
That was the sequel.
This. Okay,
Analyze This. I was nowhere to be found on that one.
Okay.
But yeah, so then I'd hear you play with Benny and always go, yeah, I did Benny a favor. He hired the right guy. You know, he got rid of me, and he got a guy who knows how to play the instrument. So that was a blessing in disguise all the way around, as far as I'm concerned. But when Dave, you know, plays in town, I mean, obviously we've been on hold for a year or so, but when Dave comes to town, because he lives in LA these days, and if I'm around, I'd show up when you're doing it. And, you know, it's better and better every time I hear it, which sounds hard to believe because it's always been at a high level. But every time I hear it, I'm laughing. And if I'm laughing while watching something, believe me, that could be a horrendous thing or an amazing thing, usually not anywhere in between. But I'm laughing as I'm watching what you're doing. And I mean that as the highest compliment. So,
well, I appreciate it.
And my last impression.
Yeah, before COVID hit, we were actually doing a few double bills or triple bills actually.
Yeah,
at New Blue in the city. So New Blue is on C, right? Avenue C, correct?
And between 9th and 10th, yeah. I mean,
9th and 10th.
Everything is these days.
Yeah, so we did a few bills where Zach did Wednesday Night Titans, and I did a solo once, maybe a duo with Ben Monder, and then Nate did solo. Nate Wood, the amazing Nate Wood, did his 4.
Yeah, 4.
And those
maybe
shows
might have done one. I'm losing my mind, but I think.
Say again?
I think Dion might have done one as well at some point. I'm hallucinating if I'm wrong about that, but
not the night I did, or maybe he did. But anyway, those went. We're past first impressions. We're on 84th impressions. So this is the Wednesday Night Titans.
Which I'm at their studio headquarters right now.
Exactly. One of it's just one of the best shows I've seen in the last, 5-10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Talk about now I'm watching you and I'm admiring the drumming and also the editing, because my wife happens to be an editor and she's like, Zach is a really good film editor. Besides being a great drummer, the editing is amazing. So I found myself watching the drumming and digging the music, but also, since I grew up on WWF as well, dying of laughter just with what you've done. I just think I'm thinking of Adrian Adonis right now. And I'm laughing. So it's a genius. It's a genius project. Well,
here's the thing, and like a lot of things in my career, and I'll be open about it. I can't say I'm thrilled when you get like bad feedback on stuff you do. And I don't mean bad feedback. Never does the bad feedback make me think less of what I'm doing or make me lose confidence in what I'm doing. But it is a drag that like you would hope and wish that like what you're doing is resonating with people. When it doesn't, you're like, oh, that's kind of sad, you know. But there really is a premise to that. It wasn't a random idea. I grew up thinking I'd be in the WWF like a lot of kids. You know, when I was 12 years old, I knew so much about that certain era of wrestling. And I'd been doing stuff with multimedia, and I wanted to do something where I took this very, very, very deep nostalgic, you know, topic and work with it and see if I can bring it to life. So yes, I edited things I had watched in real time in the 80s. And I brought it into a show, and a lot of it's, you know, triggered interactively. Some of it's, you know, obviously you have to pre-cut the clips so that they can behave in the way you want when you trigger them. But there's definitely like, it's not just a random, oh, he's doing wrestling, you know, and I've seen people go, oh, why is he wearing a mask? Well, he's wearing a mask because I had that mask when I was 12 years old as well. It was a guy named the Masked Superstar. I had a cheap version of it. So there is backstory. So I will go tooth and nail. I will suplex anybody who thinks that this is just a, hey, what could I do to be weird? Or what if I put a mask? You know, I have a band called Boomish. We dressed in outfits in the late 90s. People said, what are these jazz musicians doing dressing in costumes? This has been a theme. So I would tell a lot of people to maybe get a bit of an education past my Michelle Camillo and Wayne Krantz days, because I know a lot of people stop there. But those who I respect the most would easily take what I've done over the last 10 years over those other days. Sure, those were great moments. There's no slight to those other artists, but I was still cutting my teeth and trying to figure out what I needed to do as an artist. And again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. If they preferred how I played at the age of 15, I'm not going to say they're wrong, because there is no right or wrong, but I would take the current version of myself any day of the week. And I just wish people would maybe open themselves up a little more than to be stuck in things that have been done before. And, you know, the unknown is territory where a lot of people seem to just not want to embrace. I don't know why, but there are brownie points for embracing the unknown in any line of work, in any facet of life. So I would just tell people to keep an open mind. I know the things you're doing are definitely further out than when you started playing the drums. And I think you're absolutely at your best now. And my favorite drummers are those who I could say at every step of the way, they were at their best. You know, all my favorite players are at their best currently, and were at their best 5 years ago and 10 years ago. You know, it kept evolving. So they were at their best at the current moment. And I think that's key.
That's a good point.
Anyway.
Because there's also the Mr. Barrington stuff that obviously happened before the Titans, which I'm a huge fan of.
Or during and after, yeah.
During and after, Edit Bunker. So yeah, I just like the fact that you're just pushing the boundaries and you get to things before people do, you know, and that's a very big it's a good quality to have. Very like avant-garde, not in the avant-garde like free jazz. I'm not going to play any time or whatever. I'm talking about like you're there before people get there, and well, I mean, that's a big testament.
I don't know if people are going to want to get there to some of this, and maybe some of this is a total flop, but you know what? I'm still willing to take that chance. And I think that needs to be more of what I would hope to see in other people. You know, I think that's a situation we could use a lot more of. You know, there was a video circulating. And just for the record, I've had that Michelle Camillo video that just got launched about a month or two on the web. I had that video sitting in my archives since the day it was recorded, which was like 1989. I have a tape of it. They gave it to me in Europe. I purposely never leaked it because I don't feel it's indicative of my situation. Now, of course, yes, it is, because I played that way. But I never was going to go like, look what I did, you know. And when somebody leaked it, I thought, here we go something. And the comments were like, oh my God, I didn't even know he can play like that. Oh, now those are chops. Wow, now that's wow. And I'm thinking, if that's where you're, you know, I don't want to make enemies here, but if that's impressing you, but the current stuff isn't, I would hope you have a more open mind. That's all. Not that wasn't good, but
no, it was good. And I saw that, and I told you, I said,
yeah, it's not that that's bad clip, but I do think I've totally evolved since then in a way that I prefer. And if you don't, that's cool, but understand where it's all sitting rather than go, I didn't know he could play like that. Well, I knew I could play like that, and hopefully other people know that too. And if you have to spell it out like that, there needs to be more dot connecting when people check out somebody's body of work and not jump on one thing people see. If I see something about somebody that someone says, you got to check this guy out, I don't just stop at one record or one video. I need to take a bigger sample size to see what we're at. I mean, there are people who love Coltrane in one era and thought when he got a little too out there, if you'd only started with that, you'd be like, oh, he's not for me. But you know what? Start with some of his prime time-ish stuff, and then you can see where he went, and you might have more respect for that. So
you're talking about 𝗚𝗏𝗡𝗦 or Coltrane?
I'm talking either or, but Ornette Coltrane.
Ornette Coltrane. Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing about Coltrane and Ornette Coleman for that matter. They did not stop growing, evolving, searching, and those are two prime examples of musicians who kept on pushing, exploring, not resting on any kind of laurels. And Miles Davis too. He was for sure. He was disgusted. He was disgusted. He would talk very badly about the stuff that he did 20 years prior, and he thought that was dead. So those three musicians.
A lot of artists that I like Jeff Porcaro said he can't think of. When they interviewed him, he said maybe there was like 4 bars in one track that he played on his entire career that he could live with listening back to. Maybe a 4-bar moment of one tune, and that's it. And I'm thinking, I get what he means, because I feel similarly about a lot of stuff. I can't listen to stuff I've done, but I get it. But it just shows you this is the level of commitment and the level of people hold themselves to.
Definitely.
Anyway.
Speaking of Porcaro, as you know, I'm back on a big Porcaro kick, and I'm discovering some recordings which I didn't even know he played on. And I just have a new, when you get to things when you're a little older and you hear it with different ears, totally. You have a different perspective. And right now I'm in awe of kind of every note he played on a lot of different recordings. And some other drummers as well.
You're one of my favorites.
And so, yeah, he's
Mark Carini is another drummer who very few people know of. He played on Gino Vanelli's stuff.
Okay.
Every time I listen to him playing on Brother to Brother album, you can't touch that playing. I mean, there's just so many guys who, I know you put a post up about Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, that's, I think, for me.
Cool in the Gang.
Oh, yeah, you did put Open Sesame.
Cool. Open Sesame.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Ridiculous record.
I mean, right. That's right. I thought it was Earth, Wind, and Fire when you put some. No, Cool in the Gang. Right. And that, I never knew that drummer's name, but that's one of my favorite Open Sesame. So I remember hearing that as a kid, and just like, ridiculous. These are the unheralded drummers. I mean,
yeah.
And that Cool in the Gang album is not their most commercial stuff, as we know.
Yeah.
That had a more kitschy, almost instrumentally feel, and they did a lot of that, as did Earth, Wind, and Fire, by the way, which I'd say Cool in the Gang, Earth, Wind, and Fire are two of my favorites from that era. I love Teddy Pendergrass's stuff from that era.
Yeah.
If someone said, what's your favorite music to listen to, if I'm just looking for some weird nostalgic, what I grew up on, it would be those groups more than it would be a Miles Davis or any sort of like what you might call other pop stuff or rock stuff in the era. I loved soul, R&B. Yeah. That was my favorite. I've been told one of our topics we need to hit on is favorite studio stories. Now, I don't know if we can
studio stories. Oh, favorite studio moment track.
Moment. Oh, okay. Well, as you know, like Porcaro, I don't have one. So Dan, I'm gonna turn.
Well, I have a funny story. It's a funny studio story.
But maybe that's a separate question.
Well, we could tie it in. Yeah. Okay, so I've done a couple of these records where I've taken, the tabla material and transferred it to the drum set. As you know, I've done a couple records. The first one was a 16-beat cycle called Teamtal drum set solo. The second was Japtal, and that's a 10-beat cycle. Now, the funny thing about this, there's a couple funny things about this. The session, we did the second one at Systems 2, which was my favorite studio to record at. They sold, but there's no more Systems 2, which I'm sad about. But so we did that there, and it's very demanding stuff. That's, I prepare, months, maybe a year for that recording. And I'm playing, and it's all one, it's like one long piece, it's like many compositions that fall into one large composition. So there's no stopping and starting. It's just a flow, so the piece is like an hour or so. And I'm trying to execute this tough composition, I can't remember what it was, but for some reason, I can't get the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin out of my mind at that point. And it's just stuck in my brain at that point. And I couldn't get it out. And as that was happening, I start hearing this weird thing on the bass drum, and the mic, he set up the mic to where it was in the head, so that everything I think I had done in the last 15 minutes was just completely not usable. So it was a combination of 40-Year-Old Virgin, which I don't know why that got into my brain at that moment, but I couldn't concentrate on anything else except for that movie. And then the bass drum mic was just stuck in the head. So none of that was usable. I had to go over, start at the beginning. So that's kind of a funny story. Funny and sad.
Yeah.
Weird though, right? A weird.
But par for the course with stuff as I know you, right? That's right in line.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's in there. That qualifies.
Yeah. So that's a funny studio story.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that question, and at first I was like, nah, nothing ever wacky has really happened to me. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, there's been a few. And then there was like a couple. As far as like favorite recorded moment, for me, I would say still like, to me, when you can listen back to an album and not cringe, that's saying something. And still on every album, like, I told Wayne for years and about 2 Drink Minimum and Long to Be Loose, and we both argue. I'm like, oh, I'm so on top of the beat, and Wayne's like, no, I'm the one who's pulling it a little bit, and I'm like, no, it's me, and I just can't. I think even tonight, if you told me to retrack that album, I can do a better job. And I'm not saying that's hard to believe, but it's hard to believe only because I haven't played that music in a while, and I haven't played drums very much in this past year. But I still think I could do it more to my liking. But you grow and evolve, and I think that's a good sign. But I do cringe at so many moments, like, wow, man, I wish I would have done this or that better. And the Long to Be Loose album, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I played that album. I had done a gig in LA a week before, and I was told to play pretty hard, and I overplayed, and I got blisters on every finger playing this gig harder than I should have. So literally almost on every finger, I had Band-Aids on the Long to Be Loose album. About every finger had a big blister. So there was a lot of slippery stuff, and sounds like one of those excuses like the sun's in my eyes and such a fun ball. But yeah, I was struggling to, even hold on to the sticks, and that's actually true. But speaking of playing too hard, I do remember a session. This is a funny moment, akin to your story, no 40-Year-Old Virgin. But I was doing either an album or a song for a TV commercial back in the 90s, and I'm playing, and they're listening in the control room, and I was working for a great guitarist who's no longer with us named Chuck Loeb, and I'd done a lot of work for him, a lot of records. So we had a long-standing working relationship. So when he was listening back, and he's like, Zach, man, it sounds like you're not giving it energy. Don't take this the wrong way, but could you give it more energy? And I'm thinking, okay, Chuck knows my playing in and out. I think I'm giving it energy, so I don't know, I'll give it more energy. So give it more energy. And the engineer's like, yeah, I think you're just not really hitting like with any conviction. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I am. So third take, I overdid it like crazily. They come back on the speaker. I was like, is that any better? They're like, I don't know what to tell you, Zach. They're like, Were
they messing with you?
Well, either that, and I'm thinking, okay. I asked the engineer, I said, could you come in here and stand near me when I do this next pass? Within like 3 seconds, I was taking his head off. I said, that's how I'm playing. He went in, he realized that most of the mics were muted in his console.
Oh my God.
And the thing is, I would have probably spoken sooner when, I wasn't new to the business, but like, there even takes a long time in the industry to feel confident enough in what you do to be like, right away, just head them off at the pass. Guys, must be something wrong. Come in here, look how I'm hitting. This is how I play. It's not me. But I was thinking, am I not giving it enough zest? And I went through those motions a few times. Ended up, console wasn't operating.
So it was amateur hour in the control room. That's what it's amateur hour.
It wasn't because they were all good engineers who just had a technical difficulty, but they thought I wasn't hitting.
Amateur hour. Amateur hour.
You see this scar right here? No, that wasn't. No, I'm kidding. Anyway,
I'll give you one time, but then after 3 times, that's amateur hour. Sorry.
Well, maybe so.
What it is.
I clearly never recovered from that. Scarred for life. How about road stories? I'm sure you've got plenty of those.
Yeah,
and your live moment touring. I'm just
favorite live
rehashing when I'm reading his fundamental. Ed Asner riff.
Ed Asner. What was the show he was on?
Well, he was on. Mary
Lou Grant.
There was a Lou Grant vibe.
Lou Grant.
I'm getting Mary Tyler Moore. And then he had his own spin-off. I think it was Lou Grant.
I didn't realize that. Just going sitcom. That I was never a Cheers guy, but I watched an episode during COVID, and I didn't realize that the coach was Tommy from Raging Bull, who actually happened to be in a few Scorsese movies. I didn't know that until I watched that Cheers episode.
Yeah. I don't watch enough movies, so I wouldn't have made that connection. But getting way off topic, Dan, right? We can't do this. We have all our adoring fan watching right now. We can't let him or her down. Road story, live gig story.
Off topic. Run with it. Run with the off topic.
We're going to get there. Believe you me.
Hey, it's already 2:33. Time is going quick.
Okay. How long does this thing go? Till like 7 p.m. Eastern? Is that what this is? Another 4.5 hours of this?
3:15 or so.
What's the longest Gretsch Generations thus far? I want to exceed it by 3 times. Do we have a running tally of the longest? Was it Joe LaBarbera?
Almost 2 hours.
Still vibe. We want to exceed it. All right. Almost 2 hours. Okay. Well, be careful what you wish for, I guess. All right.
Road story here. Like, I just went on the road a week ago. Did you know that? With John 𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 Quartet?
I did.
And I had a great time. when there's no airports involved, it's just a car tour, I'm so in there, because there's not the stress of the things going wrong. You have more control over point A to point B. So we just did a tour last week and it was great. And I don't know if I did a 180 on touring, but I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I could go back out pretty soon. Whereas before COVID, I was, me in the touring, it was very mixed. I love to play, but the traveling and then, leaving my girls behind was tough. But when I go on the, me and Zach love coffee. So when I go on the road, the espresso intake, it skyrockets. It goes high. 10 a day, we're talking 7 to 12 a day, especially for
I think Dan might be slightly exaggerating about his 7 to 10 a day, but I know he hits 5
in Italy. No, in Italy, I'm talking single, like boom. Like
you're going boom, 7 to 10 a day.
Boom, 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 boom. It's like Harvey Keitel and Reservoir Dogs. Bam, 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 boom, boom, boom.
Wow. I mean, I have a love of espresso, but I try to cap myself out. I don't think I've had any real ill effects from too much caffeine. I just, on paper, it seems like something that doesn't sound wise. So I try in the morning to have one. If I'm on the road, it's more curiosity than the need for caffeine. It's like I'll go to somewhere in Berlin and I'll hear about 4 places I got to try. And I'll hit all 4 within 2 hours if they're close. And I'm not doing it because I want 4 cappuccino. I just want to know what's the best one for me so I can go back next time and eliminate those other 3 and hit that one that I like. Now, I will get to the point where if I try one and it's not really hitting the mark. Now, would it be drinkable? Of course it's drinkable. We're going to good places, but in the relative scheme of the rankings, to me, it's undrinkable if compared to the one I love. Okay. So I'll have one and it'll be pretty good and I'll drink it. I'll go to cafe number 2. It'll be all right. I dump it. I do a coffee dump situation. I'm literally taking the whole coffee. Now, you know, you can say there's starving kids. I get it. But I'm not going to like over caffeinate myself and have a heart attack because I wanted to try different spots. So I'll have a sip and I'll be like, nah, this ain't cutting it, right in the garbage. Usually not in front of them because I'm sensitive to they just made this beautiful coffee. Not with the porcelain in the garbage.
Of course.
It's a paper. If it's a porcelain, though, I'll look the other way. Smoke and mirrors.
What good place pre-COVID is giving you to stay cappuccino in a paper cup? That's what I'm.
They're not correct. So then what you do is a bit of misdirection, like a magician might do. You know, you wait till they're not looking. You with your back foot, you hit that open of the garbage can. You do a quick little drip out. You pretend it's too hot and you're adding more milk. You do what you got to do to rid yourself of that. I'm not going to just like put that in their little bin 3/4 of the way full because then they're going to feel they did something wrong. Okay. You know, so I'm not trying to upstage anybody or you know what I mean, make anybody feel bad. But I'm also not going to have coffee if it's my second or third within 40 minutes. That's not good enough.
That's the difference between you and me.
You'll have them all.
I'll have them all, and I'll go to the moon.
You'll have them all.
I'll have them all.
And that's why you've been to the moon and I haven't. So maybe I need to join you.
I had something about coffee. I lost the.
What about in terms of playing? I'm not trying to like be the Walter here, but you know, any memorable moments, funny or otherwise, playing on the road?
There's been a lot of moments on the road. I mean, you know, we've both been going on the road for a long time now. I mean, it's been almost 25 years. Let's see. You know, it's. Let me think about that one because there's no one thing is coming to mind. If you got something, go ahead. But
yeah, well, we could talk about our biggest oops moments. You know, I've got plenty of those.
Okay,
plenty of those. That just came to mind. Biggest oops moment right there. I wish I had some theme music with a little like splat. And, Price is Right by Bob Barker. Rod Roddy was the follow-up to Johnny Olson, but if any of you are Price is Right viewers,
you know what we could do after this? We could do some game show ratings. That's what we could do after this segment.
We can get there. We can go left. For all the people out there, you know, in Gretsch Drum YouTube land or Facebook land, if you have a topic you want us to riff on, you know, put it up. But
put it up.
Yeah, so this just came to mind, and it's just again one of these moments where you think, how pathetic am I? So I'm about 20 years old, I think, at the time, maybe 19, 20. I'm playing a festival, I believe, with Paquito de Rivera in Florida. I think that's right. Maybe 𝗟𝗚𝗏𝗧𝗦𝗔 in Puerto Rico. No, it's probably Paquito de Rivera in Florida.
Was Ron DeSantis the drum tech?
Yes, he was. And he told me to leave the mask off. Yes.
Okay. I thought you told me that back in 98. You told me that DeSantis was the tech.
You're going off topic. So anyway, I get in the elevator to go with, I have a cymbal bag. An older gentleman gets in the elevator. He's really nice. He looks at my cymbal bag. He's like, "Are you a drummer?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, obviously, you know, but I'm like, yeah. He's like, "Oh, you're playing the festival?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said something like, "I'm playing," maybe it was at 𝗟𝗚𝗏𝗧𝗏 or something. And he said something to the extent of, oh, yeah, I've known him a long time. And I'm thinking like, he didn't say much. And he's like, "Well, I'm actually walking to the festival, you know." It's like, "Oh, cool." I was like, I was going to take a cab or something. He's like, "Hey, we can walk. It's not far." And he was really sweet. But I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, he's asking me all these questions and like, he's a little nosy, maybe kind of, but he's nice. But like, you know, is he just a jazz fan or something? Turns out that I was walking to the gig with 𝗵𝗘𝗧𝗧.
Oof.
Okay. Now, what makes it worse is when you tour back in those days, you didn't have an iPod. You brought cassettes or CDs of your favorite music. At that time, like the top 3 things I was listening to on constant rotation was 𝗵𝗘𝗧𝗧. Now, a lot of people don't know this album. 𝗵𝗘𝗧𝗧, Inner Voices. You may know it. 𝗟𝗑𝗩𝗚𝗑𝗧𝗏, Jeanette, one of my favorites.
Killer.
I literally had to have been listening to that 5 hours prior to him getting into the damn elevator. And I'm walking going, well, this is a nice guy, but he's asking me a lot of questions about, I mean, that's now,
horrible.
It's horrendous. Now, could I make the same mistake again with someone else? I can, and I will. But, but wow, like it'd be one thing if I'd never heard of somebody, who you're in the elevator? You were in the elevator. And I'd be like, who? I don't, but 𝗵𝗘𝗧𝗧. And one of my favorite albums that minute was Inner Voices. Listening to it that night, I run into him. And here's the lesson I learned besides, well, what kind of lesson can you learn besides like know who you're talking to, but you can't always know who you're talking to, right?
Yeah.
I think one lesson is ask some questions back, but I was too young, so I was too awkward to say, are you playing the festival? What are you doing here? He was very open, relaxed. I was 19, 20 years old, but the other thing to be learned from that is you have clearly one of the greatest pianists of all time, period. And he was kind enough to be interested in this little 19-year-old twerp's involvement in the festival that he was probably headlining and I was playing sideman before him. Do you know what I mean?
That's a big lesson.
You learned from that.
Yes.
That what a decent human being. And if there ever was supposed to be someone who could maybe have copped an attitude, it's somebody of that guy's level. Not that anybody should cop an attitude. But if anyone could, you'd like to think it's a guy who just like no stones turned, just a monster. And he was a sweet man. I wish I had been, all I wish is I could have been like, wow, you're 𝗵𝗘𝗧𝗧. I have your cassette right in my pocket. You know what I mean? Like at the very least. Yeah. Instead, I was like, thanks for walking me to the gig. I wouldn't have known how to get there if you didn't help me. So there's an oof moment.
I have just thinking back to like a tour story. It was just a gig I was playing. I was playing with 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦, and it was in Albany, December 9th of 2016. So because I remember that because my daughter
was that the 7th.
That was the 7th. It was my daughter was
on the 9th, but yeah. I
don't know why. I have a weird thing with dates. But so we were playing, we were opening, huh?
Said, how about figs? It's a bad attempt at humor.
I haven't had a date in a while, but there was a period where I was just getting boxes of dates.
Maybe.
Majul.
Yeah.
Crushing them. Anyway, I like dates.
I'm sorry.
But so we were opening for Jack DeJohnette's trio, and it was just a great hang because we were all eating backstage, and I had met him before, but on this particular occasion, I was asking him a lot of questions, Jack DeJohnette, and he was very receptive, and we were hanging for 3 or 4 hours, and it was a highlight for me because we started to sing like Philly Joe Jones solos, Max Roach. So I asked him like, what was your stuff coming up? And he told me, Max Roach Daoud, Max Roach this and that, Philly Joe Jones, gone. So that was a highlight for me. Being able to just sing these drum solos with him was I'm not talking about any kind of music that I've played or anything, but that's something that I'll remember, till I die. And just the fact of him telling me what it was like to play with Coltrane for a week next to Rashid Ali. They did a week, I think in '66, and just him telling me how he couldn't keep up with Rashid Ali. He couldn't keep up with his stamina. Right. And then I was asking him because there was a Standards Volume 2, Keith Jarrett Standards 2 video, not the record, but the video, where I dubbed that onto cassette tape and used to listen to that every day when I would drive my car. So I know that just backwards and forwards. And I would ask him about this solo he took on Love Letters. And yeah, that was a great, really great, memorable few hours on the road. So yeah, but in terms of an oops moment, I have an inverse story of what you told. An inverse. I was on the road in Serbia, and it's not many jazz musicians that are in Serbia hanging out that are not playing the jazz festival. So I'm in the lobby talking to Anthony Jackson. Did I tell you the story?
Not so far. It doesn't ring a bell.
Because I just talked to Simon Phillips, and they're playing with Hiromi.
Oh, yeah.
And I say, hi, Mr. Jackson, how you doing? Because we had met, and it's like, oh, no, I'm not Mr. Jackson. I said, no, but you're playing with Hiromi, right? In the festival? It's like, no. I'm really confused in the lobby. We're at the lobby of the hotel. I'm very confused. I said, but you're Mr. Jackson. You're playing bass with Hiromi. No, a lot of people mistake me for him. I said,
this is heavy. I see where this may be going.
I said, you mean to tell me we're standing here and you're not Anthony Jackson? He said, yes. And that was it. That was the end. And I'd see Simon again the next morning. I said, what's going on? He said, oh yeah, he just gets like that sometimes. And that was it. That was it.
That tops my story. Mine. Wow.
But it's the inverse. It's the inverse of your story.
If there ever was one. Wow. And I work with Anthony, and he's such a sweet man, but I can also see him just not being in the mood to the point of just taking that route.
Yeah. Well, that was the route. Yeah. I was just very confused. I didn't understand. I thought I was.
And afterwards, did you say to him, so what you gonna do for me then? It's a Struggle Conrad. But
anyway. Over my head, sorry. So that's an inverse. That wasn't necessarily an oops moment, but
it was.
It was a strange moment. I'll give you that. It was a strange one.
Bizarre.
I'll give you a stupid oop. This is nothing related to touring, but I just thought of one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. You want to hear that? Maybe some people would want to hear that as an oops moment.
Go for it. Yeah. Was I a part of it?
You weren't a part of it. It's a short story. I remember listening to my iPod at my friend's house, 𝗚𝗏𝗘𝗧𝗦𝗏, who lives 2 doors down. I used to practice in his basement. He's a good friend. I play in his group. His kid was listening to my iPod. His kid was sick, and he had my iPod, and he touched it, and I didn't want to get sick. So what did I do? For some reason, I took the iPod and I washed it under the sink with soap to get the germs off of it. And that was the oops moment.
An alcohol sort of swab /
Yeah, that's an oops moment because the iPod was dead. What do you think of that? What is that about?
Well, that's a very topical story, no pun intended. We all know we washed our groceries, or some of us did at least, last year. We washed our box of 𝗚𝗏𝗃, as if that product still exists. But anyway,
yeah.
In Europe maybe. Anyway.
Did you have some favorite cereals growing up?
Yeah, I did actually. And I do return to some of them, and they hold serve.
Like?
For example, Crispix.
Crispix
too.
Crispix is solid because the texture is good.
Texture. To me, it was a superior version of Chex cereal.
Of Chex, yeah. Some of the Chex I liked.
Chex had a tighter sort of front to backish of the 2 layers, where there was more puffiness in a Crispix, and it was shaped more like this instead of bang up against each other, if I'm not mistaken. Sort of widened itself out a little bit.
Jules, I'm with Jules.
Yeah, we're getting a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That's even tighter than a Chex cereal, but that's a delicious product.
So good.
Delicious product. What are some of the least favorites? How about that, Dan? Least favorite.
Oh, well, people can
have one that qualifies as both up there and down there at the same time.
And I'll tell you, can I make a guess what that is?
Yes, I think you're going to read my mind. Dial in.
Grape nuts.
You nailed it. See that? You nailed it. And we did not pre-rehearse this.
That's a no pre-rehearse. But that's people are divided.
Everything prior now, totally on script. We've been reading off a teleprompter, but that
was off script.
Grape nuts.
I like grape nuts.
Like you have to be either, I don't know, taste deaf or I don't know what age to like this, but yet it's kind of delicious in a sick way.
I love it. I love
it. Do you know that there's a place in New York that used to serve, they called it cereal milk soft serve. I think it was milk it was called. And I think a lot of their desserts are overly sweet. So I guess I'll never get a gig there, or at least an endorsement of their blackout, brownout cake or whatever it's called. But crack pie, they call it, you know?
Oh yeah. Too sweet. Little too sweet. Yeah.
Carnival sweet. But anyway.
Overrated.
Overrated for sure. But they did a soft serve that tasted like grape nuts, and boy, it was good. It was like a grape nutty soft serve.
There seems to be like a grape nut themed dessert vibe. I remember going to Cape Cod, and there was a grape nut, either not a pie, but a grape nut, some kind of dessert based grape nut thing. And that's not the first time I've encountered a grape nut dessert.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too promising. You know, it's also kind of an arduous thing to get through.
What?
Anything that like crackling oat bran or like those,
I love it.
Those, you like that? How about the sticks, like all bran, those shredded sticks?
The cereal?
All bran. It's called Kellogg's.
No, I like the rectangle crackling oat bran. That's it.
Not that, because that's also like there's raisin bran. Those are the flakes. I'm talking like the sticks. If you look up Kellogg's All Brand, I don't even know if they still making it. If they don't, good move. That was a tough one to endure, especially like when your family, your grandmother had it there because your grandfather was a little bit irregular, so he needed something like that. But you're 7 years old, you don't need this, and yet you're being forced to like do it like grandpa. You know, it's not running it. And then it with the milk hitting it and it gets soggy. It's game over. It's some rough sludge. No good.
Okay.
Back to drumming.
Quick muesli. I'm never a big muesli fan. I don't know.
Yeah, that's swampy, you know, but I do go for it sometimes at like those breakfasts in Germany when you're at
Europe. Europe.
Like Europe, it's like a wet muesli thing. It's got
Swiss muesli.
I kind of like that, and I like the 3-minute egg or whatever the hell minute egg it is, a little light boiled, soft boiled egg, you know, with toast point.
I need it hard boiled or scrambled dead. If I go to a diner and I need eggs, I say scrambled dead. Kill the eggs, please.
Yeah.
All
right. We're never getting eggs together, but that's all right.
No. No yolks. No, can't do it.
No mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. Quick game show. You want to revisit the VAME show or no? Oh, what are we practicing lately? How about a few game show ratings, and then we'll do what are we practicing lately?
I'll hit the practicing lately and then the game show vibe.
Okay.
Because I don't have an answer for the game show right now, but practicing lately, I can tell you that. So there's a lot of things about me that I don't make public on purpose. And the reason I don't is because what do you have left for somebody who you're in an intimate and I don't mean, you know, romantically, but someone you're in an intimate friendship with? What do you have left for them if everything about you is left open? You know what I mean? But some people know that I've suffered from back and neck and shoulder issues probably for 25 years, almost every moment of every day. Not looking for sympathy, but it ties in with this, what are you practicing? And through the years, I've had bouts where I've had more free time. I've not been on the road as much and not traveling from city to city. And I had times where I've had good health insurance, and sometimes when I've had not so good health insurance, where like physical therapy visits and seeing specialists were going to take me out of pocket way too much. And sadly, I know health is everything, but you avoid it. You're like, oh, I'll deal with it later. So as you put that off, it gets worse and worse and worse. And so I got decent health insurance recently, obviously been home. I thought to myself, let's revisit physical therapy. And they're just trying to give me exercises to strengthen my posture and my back. And I know, Dan, you know this because we've been talking about this, but I've been trying to do something in a way that I've never done this, or at least not in recent memory at all. Like, first of all, whenever I seem to practice, it doesn't end up being practice for me. It ends up being troubleshooting my electronics rig. So I always would have my video set up to trigger videos or trigger synths from the drum set. And even though you're trying to practice something, you're just so tempted to, all right, wait a minute, the decay time on that synth is not short enough. Let me tweak that. Oh, that sounds too high-endy. Wait, why is it overlapping notes? You never get to play unadulterated and just focus on the drumming and focusing on your touch and getting a good sound out of the drum, you know, hitting a snare drum and getting 5 different tones or a ride cymbal in different ways. I'm just so engulfed in all the other stuff that it's hard to focus on that. And so that's a problem first and foremost. So I took that out of the equation recently, and I only have like a little bit of a practice kit situation these days, but I just have been trying to focus more on drumming, for lack of a better word, and not electronics and worrying about that, and just getting your chops and just motions, like motions around the kit. You can maybe play singles or doubles around a snare drum, but you try to go to the cymbal or off, you know, even just single strokes, the toms, and it's a different, totally, you know, you've spoken about this a lot when you talk about this, but getting around the drums is a totally different thing than playing the same thing on one surface, like the different textures of the different, and the travel distance and the coordination. But also for me, I realized that there are things I don't play. And I don't even, it's funny how the brain works. The brain almost doesn't consider things that it can't do. And what I mean by that is, if there's a little puddle in the street, like, you know, a very small puddle, you don't even think twice, you just jump over it, you know? If there's a humongous puddle that's like, you know, looks like it's a foot deep, for example, and it's only 12 inches long, you might say to yourself, I could still jump that. But if it's 18 inches long, your brain automatically just doesn't even go there to jump that puddle. You're like, you know, you can't do, you just take another route, you know? There are things I don't play on the drums that I don't even think to play because somehow my brain knows it can't do it. And a lot of it comes from just physical pain of playing around the kit and like my shoulders hurting or just like fatigue in the arm or some weird thing. So that's not even in my vocabulary because my brain knows I can't do it, you know? So I'm actually trying to sit on the set and play things to strengthen my posture and my back and neck and balance, you know, and core strength and in the legs and stuff. And even things that I think everything I'm practicing will be stuff I will use in some form, maybe not literally in the way I'm practicing it, but I know for a fact it's things I've never practiced and it's things I cannot do. And it could be something as simple as like, try to play paradiddles in your feet. You know, I know many drummers can do that, and maybe I'll never end up using that verbatim, but it's going to strengthen my sense of balance on the kit, number one. It's going to strengthen some independence, especially if I up top play like double strokes against the paradiddles or singles against the paradiddles. I may never end up using this, or something may come out in my playing 6 months from now that is derivative of the fact that I know how to, or meaning that I can do that. And I may find some little moment that has some DNA of that in there within something else that clearly never would have come out because I never was able to do it on the basic DNA level. You know what I mean? So something else comes out. I've had a discussion about, you know, whether you should practice everything left hand lead or left foot lead or not. And one argument would be like, man, you know, try to get your right hand lead better. You know, like you're not even good at that. And I would put myself in that category too. However, it's not about that. It's about unlocking your brain in a different way. It's about, you know, you can even make an argument that playing open-handed on the hi-hat and the snare physically opens up things because you're not stifled by this. You got an open thing, and that in itself is worth doing it for that reason. Yep. But all of a sudden, you realize, wait a minute, I've never played 16ths on a hi-hat with the left, and forget hi-hat. I've never played 16th notes with the left. You can do it on a pad. And just played weird fill-ins as the, you know, fill-in hand on the right. I've never felt that feeling in my hand. And to me, those are the moments you go, great, I've never felt that feeling in my hand. That's something you got to work on. Because whether I ever do left-hand lead or it's something that manifests itself differently, I've unlocked a combination now that never was unlocked and I've never used in any way, shape, or form. So you don't even have to use it as left-hand lead. I might. But yeah. I find that I'll use it elsewhere, and it's because I dissected and uncovered that I've never felt this combination of notes before. And you play drums for years and years and years, and yet you know, you've stumped me like trillions and trillions of times, and maybe once or twice, maybe for 5 seconds, I've stumped you with a sticking that you're like, oh man, that's hard. I'm like, wait, you don't. And that just clearly tells me that of the trillions of hours you've been in a room, and believe me, it's been trillions with you, I know that, you somehow never hit that combination, because if you did, you would have played it right back to me like everything else I've ever played for you. I play something to Dan, and he goes, oh, you mean this? He's like, oh yeah, I like to do that, but I also like to put 5 in the foot, and I do every other offbeat on the hi-hat. And I'm like, oh wow, okay, I'm barely able to do the 2 things in the hands I'm showing you, and you're spitting that back out with an improvised exercise on the kick and the hi-hat to boot. That said, once or twice I have hit on something where Dan said, man, Zach, is this hard for you? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I can remember that. That was last week.
Thing or something you'd ask me, and it's just like, wow, that just so happened to be something I, in one way or another, had worked on at some point in my life. Yeah. Those are the things you need to, you know, you can argue, get better at the things that you're okay at, and that's one avenue, and that's clearly important. How about get decent at things you're horrendous at? How about that?
Yeah, I think it's
at things you're not existent at.
It's all about balance. For me, it's about balancing. And I remember just reading like a modern drummer interview, and Jeff Watts, I think, said it best. He's like, work on your strengths, develop your strengths, like get them stronger, and then work on your weaknesses. So that's one thing that's just very simple. And then the other thing is, like, as you were saying, there's people that practice with an end goal. And then there's other, which is cool. And that, you know, that's part of practice too. But then there's just the journey part. And I think that's what you're talking about. And that's, say again?
Don't stop believing when you're working on this stuff.
Great drum part to that tune. Don't stop believing. No. But anyway,
okay.
For me, it's the journey part that's fun. It's the like you said, unlocking those things, opening it up, playing things that you haven't played, and not necessarily because you're trying to get it into a gig, right? But because it's just a different perspective, and it's a different feeling, and you know, it's spending time with the instrument and getting to know it, and so I think for me, it's about balancing the stuff that. And it's also about balancing the stuff that's a grind and the stuff that's fun as well. So,
and the thing that's important is never be insecure to admit you need to learn something or you can't do something.
Or get better at some simple stuff.
Better at something. I mean, to me, it's like, I've always thought it's funny. It's like, you know, maybe stating the obvious, but a lot of times people that are overly confident are probably the most insecure. I actually think showing insecurity is more a sign of strength than not showing insecurity. So maybe I'm the confident one because I'm showing insecurity, you know, but I'm telling you, I've got a long, long way to go. But to me, it takes confidence to say that.
Yeah.
You know, like which one you are, the person who's really confident of his stuff or the person who isn't. I think you're a bolder person if you're not confident, or if you know you have room to grow, if you're admitting you can't do something, you know. I remember years and years ago when I heard that apparently Tony Williams had called Greg Bissonette to teach Tony Williams double bass drum. And my first reaction to that, and Greg's a great double bass drum player, and it makes total sense why Tony Williams would look to him. But my first reaction was, isn't Tony Williams a master of the kit enough where he wouldn't need to ask anybody about this? Like, he put 2 bass drums up, you know what I mean? Like, figure it out. Like, if anyone can, why does he need anybody's help? But you know what? He wanted guidance from somebody who he knows does this more than him. And that says it all right there. Yeah. You know,
it's a perpetual.
Why I'm asking you officially, Dan, for tips on how you make your espresso. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, Dan is one player who will bury you within 10 seconds. That's not his intention, but trust me, it'll happen. And I look forward to getting buried more and more, because if I'm not getting buried, that's both a good and a bad thing. It's good that I'm catching up a little bit, getting it together, but it means I'm not going to learn as much. So, you know, again, and that goes back for me as to keep pushing envelopes with projects. Not everyone may love certain directions I'm going in, but you know what? It's worth it to me. to go in those directions. And you may make some mistakes, you may not, but you know what? That's how things happen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What else is on the docket? Talk about our old Gretsch drum kits, K-E-T-S. That's a new thing. Kits. What would be next? My first Gretsch kit. So here's what's interesting. I can say this now because I'm a Gretsch endorser, but for years,
𝗟𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏.
Well, Gretsch and Parlato, both. Yes. I was going to say, so my first drum teacher, so my first drum set when I was 10, my parents bought me a blonde Ludwig kit. Not that the color's important in any way, shape, or form. I don't prefer blonde, if you know what I'm saying. Nothing against blondes. But anyhow, blonde Ludwig kit. I thought I liked it. I was 10, 11 years old. I start studying with a teacher named Kim Plainfield, who again, sadly is not with us. One of my, was so great of a teacher for me and everything. But he had a Gretsch kit. I came to gigs he was doing. He put the same pinstripe heads on his Gretsch kit, which I know some people may say pinstripes on a Gretsch sacrilege. No, but trust me, every head sounds great on a Gretsch kit. So pinstripes not withstanding. I hit his drums. I'm going, wait a minute. These destroy mine. Is it because I don't know how to tune mine, or he's a better drummer? And he's just like, no, man, that's Gretsch. Die-cast hoops, whatever. And since that moment, I was like, Gretsch are the best.
Yeah.
I then went through a heavy Steve Gadd, Dave Weckl phase, and Yamaha, for a long time took over as my favorite sound. And for what I was going for, again, recording custom with pinstripe heads and stuff. But even throughout that tenure, I always wanted Gretsch, okay? Always did. I finally got my chance because we had done, we were working on a soundtrack for the movie Ocean's 11. And the producer, composer was into vintage gear. And to him, you needed all vintage gear. That was just his thing. He called some guy in LA who had vintage kits. And this guy had a lot of good kits. And I went there to pick out the kits. And immediately I saw a Gretsch kit. I think there was a photo lurking. We can put that up whenever. There was a Gretsch kit there. There it is. And, there should be an asterisk there because Zach's first Gretsch. So the way that story goes, and funny that you'll notice there's a black dot on there. There's a coded ambassador probably on the floor. I don't know what era I had that mismatch. I also, shoot me if you don't like the hole in the 20-inch kick at that time there. That was a moment in time. But anyway, I heard that kit at this guy's place in California. It was more expensive than some of the other kits. And I said, you got to buy this kit. You got to buy this. This set is one of a kind. It's just one of the great sounding Gretsch kits. We tracked it on most of Ocean's 11. There were other kits used, but we did track it on most of Ocean's 11. I was told throughout the tracking that as a gift, I was going to get that kit to take home. As I kept raving about it and recording, and the recording sounded so good, some of the people involved in the project started to feel, maybe we should keep this kit. To which I got a little pissed off. I was like, wait a minute. I picked this out for you. You said I could keep it. I'm playing it. You guys aren't even drummers. Don't you think I deserve to keep this kit? And in the end, they relented. And I remember driving that kit home. It was early October 2001, right after 9/11. And I didn't want to get on a plane. And I also had that Gretsch kit. I drove cross country in a rental car.
Wow. To
take that kit back to New York.
Nice.
Still have that kit. That kit is still incredible. That's my first Gretsch kit.
That's a good story.
Now, yours may not be quite.
Mine's
right?
it's a rough story, but my first I started young. How old were you when you started to play the drums?
I mean,
you must have been very young, right?
Say I dabbled at 3 to 4, then I kind of played a little at 6 with a real drum set, but I started seriously around 10, 11.
Okay, yeah, I got my first set probably 6 or 7, and it was It was actually a Ludwig, it was a blue Ludwig. And then I had other sets, but then I remember hitting a Gretsch drum when I was young. There's something just about hitting it that you just feel something. It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Huh?
In one stroke.
In one stroke. So anyway,
everything, the kick drum.
Yeah. So it always stayed in my head, and then I got someone gave me a really nice Gretsch. It's my first Gretsch set. It was a friend. He just gave it to me. It was a beautiful Gretsch set. And as I've told you, so I was playing that. That's what I was playing, practicing, whatever, taking it to some gigs. And then I had a really bad bed bug problem in 2005. And like really bad. I had to move apartments. So there was one night, I remember, it was one of my last nights in that place. And I remember taking my bed frame out. I took everything out, and I was in such a horrible headspace because these things were just, they got into my psyche. So I know I was about to move. I did not want to go to my place with anything I had because I don't want to, for fear of bringing the bed bugs with me. I just left that set. I left that Gretsch set on the sidewalk. I just left it there. And I looked back half hour later and it was gone.
Yeah, I guarantee
it was gone. Yeah, I looked, it was gone. So that was my first set. And I had to do what I had to do at that time for my psyche. But there's no picture of that. There might be a picture somewhere actually. But I said, Jules, you should get a picture of a bed bug, and that could be my picture of my first Gretsch drum set. But it was a nice set, and I remember I think I recorded my first. It's called Tea-Tal drum set solo on that set. So and that's on a few records, but no, it was a good lesson in letting go too, just like. Letting go of physical belongings. You
don't let go of a Gretsch.
I had to. It was that, or it was my psyche.
Well, that's very tough. Clearly, there's somebody right now with an amazing set of your Gretsch and an incredibly terrible bed bug infestation. So,
you know what? Probably there was no bed bugs in the set, but just for peace of mind, I needed to. That's what I needed to do at the moment. And that was 16 years ago.
One of a number of drummers to say, please take my bed bug. I mean, my drum set.
I could, but it was a very spontaneous thing. It was late at night. Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad scene for me, bad period. Anyway.
All right, correct.
What are you going to do?
You're going to talk about game shows.
Oh, current setups?
Well, we can current setup. Yeah, is there a photo of my current setup, which looks more like a computer rig than a drum set? Well, actually, does look like a drum set. There you go. At least I have matching heads on the drums. Come that far. Yeah, my current rig. What's not in there is something that I like to refer to as snoms, which is a contraction. Everyone knows it's a snare and a tom. It's a snom.
Yep.
I had some snoms made. The reason I had snoms made,
Vietnam.
I'm a coffee snob.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted snoms made is because with my rig, I take a lot of electronics when I tour, because that's stuff I absolutely have to have exactly the way I need them. Like, so for example, I need to have this audio interface, although I can't have any audio interface. I have to have my pad brain mapped to the way I have it. I can't just use the same, version of something. So I bring all this stuff. There's so much to bring. Yet I wanted something that had the comforts of drums that would be the same from gig to gig. But I also needed, as I'm carrying all this stuff, to fit in like my luggage. So I can't just carry regular toms with me. So I had these sort of concert toms. They're 8 and 10, no bottom head. So they almost stack inside each other. And I fill the middle with cables that I need, and I put them in a soft padded bag and then into my suitcase. That's not pictured in that drum set there, but I do normally have snare toms. And they have snare strainers on them, so I can get some snare sounds.
Mhm.
I can, do that drum and bass thing that was popular with the kids in 1994 and maybe popular again in 2023. I better get back on it. But yeah, so that's currently what I use. I like the Brooklyn series a lot. I've never really played the Broadcasters much. They seem like something I really would get into a lot. I know there was something years ago where we had this like Gretsch the One campaign where we all played different snare drums. And I like several ones, one being this aluminum one that I really still love. But there's another one that caught my ear. I think it was like a 7 or an 8-inch deep Broadcaster snare, like a wood snare, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. It was something else. And I recently got to hear that drum again on video. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the one that got away. That's an amazing drum. But that's my current setup these days. I like the Catalina series gets a lot of mileage. I would sooner play a Catalina series than many other companies' top of the line series. Don't get fooled by the price tag about that kit. I really like it. I know you have one as well. So I mean,
that's in my Jersey, my in-laws' place. That's what I practice in my in-laws.
Yeah, Gretsch sound like Gretsch to me, and that's great.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
different
Exactly.
shades of Gretsch.
I got a USA Custom, which I love. I'm pretty simple when it comes to gear. If I like something, that's it, and that's what I'll play. And you got a picture of that one there, Jules? Yeah, that's very simple. 12, 14 toms, chrome over brass snare, which is also the thing about these. They're versatile. So if you want to go like just high bop tuning, you could do it. If you want to go a little deeper, the drums, they have a big scope. So if I do the heavier group that I do, Starebaby, I just tune them down a little bit, boom. And my normal tuning is, as you know, is pretty high. I like high, clear, just defined sounding drums. So
you throw some pinstripes on those, Jeff Porcaro.
Yeah, I'm just a Remo, coated ambassador.
As well as how one should be. Yes, those are the.
So, but yeah, I love these drums. I practice on them every day, and if they've been used on, now a lot of recordings. So, that's my current setup. Pretty just standard 4-piece, That's it. For a lot of enjoyment every day that I come down here in this basement, even though it's pretty, it's a ratty basement. But hey, I got these drums, and I could practice every day. So very lucky to have that in my life.
In New York.
And New York, what do you make the best of it? Practice.
It's a rarity. Although a lot of my friends seem to have practice facilities. I've historically, throughout my drumming life, not had practice facilities. There was a period where I did, but for the most part, I think I have the least access to be able to play drums, let alone my drums, of any of my circle of friends.
Yeah.
It's like, you've got it going on. Nate Wood has a newly built studio. Juliana has a place to play. I think Josh Dion probably has a place to play. It's like I'm left out in the cold,
No bed bugs though.
Not that I know of. Nothing itchy, really. No.
Yeah.
So, is there any more we haven't touched on? I look to our teleprompter, which is always, handy. But I think
Craig Handy, John Handy.
Yeah. I bluffed at wanting to top whoever went for 2 hours, these marathon men. I think we've given the folks, probably in their opinion, more than enough, that'd be my assessment. So, going once, going twice, going 3 times. I think we covered it. Don't you think, Dan?
I think we got some good stuff in there. We balanced it out between the straight talk, the funny stories, some little comedy, balanced it out. So, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
And the Gretsch people at Gretsch, Andrew, Jules, so appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And like I've said, it's like, Gretsch are Gretsch, and that's high praise. And
that's it. That's all. Yeah.
And that's all you need to know. So
yeah, you hit a Gretsch drum and that's it. Boom, you're done. End of story.
Done. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all for joining. And, we'll see you tonight at 7 for another 4 hours of this. So thank you very much, everyone.